Yeah, let's get started. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to open this Polk County Board of Commissioners. It's March 25th. Commissioner Gordon's excused. Extra announcements are on the back table. Looking for comments not on this agenda. Anybody like to approach the board? Next up, approval for agenda.
So moved.
I'll second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Approval of minutes from March 18th, 2026.
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And approval of consent calendar.
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Which brings us to the highlight of today's meeting, Fair Board Review with Kelly Tynan. Kelly? So, name, address.
Kelly Tynan, 235 Edwards Road South, number 98 in Monmouth, 97361.
Excellent. And thanks for applying for the Fair Board. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're applying.
Sure. So as you already heard this morning, I am now part of a family that is working on their 8th generation of Polk residents. So have been very involved in the county. The name McBee is up on the wall up there from 1888 to 1890. I ended up in Polk County because I became a member of the family, but also I've spent the majority of my life living in the Pacific Northwest. Have always been a fan of county fairs, especially since I was in high school. Always loved going to see the animals because I never grew up on a farm. Also, great night out when you're in high school to wander and play the games and ride the rides and all of that. But lately, it is something that also has become a part of my business. My fiance runs a local plumbing and construction business, and we've also opened an events business. And we are doing home shows in Albany, Polk County. We did 2 up in Hillsborough. We're actually going to move that one to Clark County, Washington, to their fairgrounds. Fairgrounds are places we absolutely believe are vital to the county for so many reasons, not just as meeting places, places to hold events, but as emergency centers. I was down here the last time we had a bad wildfire season, and it was scary. So I firmly believe that we need a fairgrounds in this county, and I've worked with Tina for a couple of years now. When I heard that there was the possibility of the fairgrounds closing, that was very disappointing. And I'd already been thinking about joining the fair board, wasn't sure how she felt, talked to her, and she was like, oh God, please. So here I am. I bring to the table probably the biggest plus for her is working with commercial vendors. Not only for supplies, but also people who would have booths at the fair, and just operations as well, how it works behind the scenes. And happy to chip in as I can. You may have seen, as soon as I understood how dire it was, I also posted to several community groups on Facebook, trying to rile up some people for that February work meeting. And I think that ended up being a really good meeting. We had a close family friend actually who at the beginning of the meeting came up and said, oh, I don't want to give any more taxes to the county. I'm already overtaxed as it is. By the end of the meeting, he said, oh, okay, I could support this. So, hey, that's one mind. Now let's get the rest. So that's it in a nutshell.
Excellent. Thank you. So we've got a few questions to ask you here.
Sure.
And there's 4 questions. We're going to start with Commissioner Polk, and we'll just go back and forth.
Morning.
Morning.
So I think you've answered most of these questions intro here, but we're going to go through the formality anyway.
Of course.
Why did you choose to apply for a position on the Fair Board, and what strengths, experience, and special talents do you have that will benefit the annual fair and the year-round operations of the Fairgrounds and Expo Center?
Yes.
Fix that question.
No. It doesn't say,
Fix that question, but
it doesn't say Expo Center on there, I'm guessing, yeah. Wait, that was a multi-part question, but yes, I was interested in becoming more involved, as far as local politics in general. As heated as the national debate can be about national topics, I think where the real decisions are made that affect us day to day are at the local level. So number one, wanted to become more involved there. Number two, the Fair Board is a natural fit. Huge fan of fairs, but also I've been using the fairgrounds as a business location now for several years. Not just this fairgrounds, but Lynn County Fairgrounds. I've now worked with the Washington County Fairgrounds and now Clark County up in Washington State. As far as I am just a huge fan of fairs. I was lucky enough to live for 7 years in Puyallup, right down the road from one of the largest fairs in the nation, which was always an experience. Not great for traffic, but yeah. And I grew up around the Latah County Fair in North Idaho. That was my home fair. So I bring a lot of enthusiasm for fairs, as well as the Expo Center part, I think, is absolutely vital to the county. I think there are a lot of people who have no idea how many different groups and organizations use the fairgrounds as a meeting place, as a place to hold fundraisers. I've become close friends with Deb, who runs the flea market every month. We had a gentleman just last night who commented, "Oh, I think it's absolutely, disgraceful that you're holding the next flea market on Easter Sunday. Couldn't you have moved it a week?" No. Not only is she contractually obligated to hold it on the first Sunday of every month, but pretty much every weekend is booked at the fairgrounds with one event or another. And there's a lot of education that needs to happen with the public that does not drive by the fairgrounds every day and read the fair board, the reader board. I just don't think we've done a good enough job with the PR portion of the Expo Center. So that's something that I'm definitely most familiar with, and I think I can help in that department.
thank you.
Do you feel that the annual fair is important to the community and why?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, not only just for family fun and entertainment, but I grew up with, I was not in FFA, but most of my friends were. And the things that they learn are not just about animal husbandry. I mean, they are learning, public speaking alone, which nowadays, sadly, is not being taught enough in schools, but that's a whole nother topic. No, I think it's great for the families to showcase their farm animals, to be able to sell their animals for a good price. I mean, these kids are learning the vital skills we need to keep farms going in this country. Because I don't think we're doing enough to protect them. So that's just one small soapbox I have. But, also just the community gathering, the annual, hanging out, seeing your neighbors, saying hi, getting that corn dog or that churro or whatever it may be. And yeah, I love watching the teenagers at the fair. You see these, groups of boys and groups of girls kind of hanging out together. And, it brings you back to those days when you were in high school and hung out at the fair to check out who was there and what they were doing. So there's that nostalgia part too.
Okay, so again, I think you've pretty well answered this question, but I rewrote it here, so just in case questions become fairly redundant for someone with your experience.
Sorry.
Do you feel that making the facility available to individuals and groups to use for functions on a year-round basis is important? And you're one of them.
Yep.
And should they all pay the posted fee?
That is a good question, actually. That is a very good question. I also have a heavy background in nonprofit fundraising. So I will say, I do appreciate when places, rental places do offer a nonprofit rate, a little bit of a break. It doesn't necessarily need to be a huge break, but it's a nice nod to the fact that nonprofits are, as I like to say, nonprofit for everyone, as someone who has worked in several of them. But I do think it's absolutely vital to have it as a meeting place. I think having, a two-tiered system of commercial ventures and then maybe a slight, and I mean slight, break for nonprofits, but also the negotiation powers that you give Tina to do things like if somebody's going to have a monthly meeting out there, perhaps there is a monthly, a rate where they sign a contract for the whole year, because then you're guaranteeing that the building is being used. So I think her being able to have some negotiation power there is good. I do think the Polk County Fairgrounds is extremely affordable as it is. And it does not bother me that rates need to go up every year. What I do think, though, that we've reached a point where in order to stay competitive, there needs to be this levy with an influx of cash to bring up the maintenance and upkeep, to spruce it up a bit so that we can stay competitive with other fairgrounds that are looking a lot less, not as old as the Polk County Fairgrounds, to be honest. But it's still a great facility. I will still continue to use it. I have dates booked for next March, so hopefully I can still use them. And that's part of why I'm here, is to make sure that the fairgrounds is still there. So.
And this one here also is a little redundant, but I think you can expand a little bit. If you are appointed to the Fair Board, what is your suggestion to enhance the operation and management of year-round activities in the annual fair?
Yeah. Obviously the maintenance and upkeep is the big one. It's looking, it's looking a little tired, but of course it's also now 70 years old. Is that approximately? So that's to be understood. But yeah, the electrical needs to be updated. I would love to see another building. I know that's on the wish list, but I would love to see us eventually pave the parking lot, but that's not a big issue. I look at it this way. The Lynn County Fairgrounds, gorgeous. They do a great job. Okay. It's a wonderful facility. My next choice of facility, even though it's smaller and older, is Polk. And not just because it's my backyard, it's because of Tina and her staff. Both Lynn County and Polk County have staff members at their expo centers that want to be your partner in business. They want to help you succeed. And I don't get that at other fairgrounds. So the strength there is the staff. And Jesus is the best concessionaire I deal with, hands down, as far as I love his burgers. So the fairgrounds is doing well, except the buildings. I mean, I think we need to, if we can, invest the money, get them upgraded, make sure they're safe, make sure a roof doesn't collapse again, make sure nobody gets hurt from a spark of electricity. And I think Tina's been doing a fantastic job with what she has in everything from the rentals to the storage to the RV spaces, things like that. So it's really just kind of, let's get it back up to a little bit more of a pretty and safe space. And possible expansion, because I think that probably, to be politically safe, I'll just say one of the next closest fairgrounds that also needs some sprucing up is, does not have the staff that is welcoming to events. They're losing events left and right. And I know events that have to use them that would almost rather come out here if the space was the same. So I'd love to see a new building at some point that could hold bigger events. But again, down the road, let's get what we have back up to snuff, back up to code, and go from there. But yeah, I hope that helps. That's kind of, I would love to do a bunch more at the Polk County Fairgrounds if there was more space. So.
Additional questions?
I do have two more I've added on here. So have you studied the fair and facility budget?
I have taken a brief look at it. I have not been given the full budget. I attended a meeting in January and then the work meeting in February, but I have not. I received a copy, but I have not gone over it line by line.
Okay, so my follow-up to that is, do you have a fair sense of what the deficit is, though?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we're not putting that money in our pockets or?
Oh, no. I have no, yeah, I've
You've
no
seen the
assumptions
Facebook post,
there.
I'm sure.
No, I have no assumptions
Yeah.
there. And that's one of the things that I've tried to explain to people when I talk to them one-on-one is that, the fair can almost completely pay for itself with events. It's, or the Fair and Expo Center. It is the fact that maintenance has been deferred for decades and that, the electrical hasn't been updated. There's a lot of building maintenance that needs to be taken care of. And I said, it's just been one of those things where there have been higher priorities. I do the quote of hire another police officer or upgrade the fairgrounds. Which choice are you going to make if you were a commissioner?
And let me help you with those talking points as you go forward. It's not hiring another one, it's keeping one.
Keeping one, yeah. And the other thing I've also been sharing is the equity problem. The fact that there was, you were mentioning, I can't remember who mentioned it at the work group, but the fact that the salaries for the county folks have to stay within a certain percentage of the counties around us. And I said, so I point out, what industry do we have here? We don't have some of the tourism dollars that Lincoln has. We don't have the industry that Marion has. We don't have the fees we can collect like, Benton County and Corvallis have. We don't have that base to collect more money from, yet we have state laws that say the county has to be within a certain percentage of the counties around it. So I've been trying to put that in layman's terms for people so that they can understand. Yeah, because I've seen comments of, oh, the commissioners are just pocketing all this money. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, have you been to a commissioners meeting? So yeah, I'm not always the best at being tactful, but I try my hardest, especially when it's in writing and in public and on Facebook.
Well, I think what the issue is here is that you're eyes wide open with regard to, what you're applying for here as far as, what their deficit is. And
Yes.
again, we've hashed this over. You've been involved in some of the public meetings. You've sat at fair board meetings and listened to the statements that are not rhetoric, they're real. The issues we have at the fairgrounds aren't just deferred maintenance. They are actually operations and money that comes from the general fund that's transferred just to keep the staff paid. And we're at a point now, again, we're choosing to pay staff on the fairgrounds with money out of general fund versus we're in that place now where we have to choose one thing over another. So that's why it's imperative that we start finding an alternate source.
Absolutely.
And with that, my last question would be, and this is irregular because you're applying while we're having a discussion about going out for a levy. It's still a discussion. I don't think that it's not going to come to fruition by any means, but it's still a discussion technically. Are you interested in helping with the campaign for future revenues? Are you willing to do that kind of work?
Oh, yeah.
On behalf of the fair board? And
absolutely.
on behalf of the commissioners?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you may not remember, but I was at one of the meetings where you were asking for public comments, and I was one of the people that said, don't go for a May question, go straight for the levy. Because I didn't want to ask people, will you support it, without being able to give us the time to do more of the education on what this really means. I think a lot of people in the November election just, in certain areas voted no because there were so many levies on there in the Dallas area. I think West Salem is going to be our hardest area to get on board. And yet I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I've already started going to some other community and political meetings and just saying, yeah, I'm hoping to be on the fair board. And have you heard what's going on with the Polk County Fair? I even talked to someone at the home show in Salem last weekend who, oh, well, we're in Yamhill. And I'm like, yeah, well, you may want to pay attention to what's going on in Polk because I have a feeling Yamhill would be closely behind. So trying to open people's eyes to, if we lose the fairgrounds here, there's going to be a domino effect. And it's not just Polk that's going to hurt. So absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Great job, Kelly.
Any questions for us?
Not until I learn more. No. I don't think so for now. I've done a lot of talking with Tina and Tim. I feel comfortable what I'm stepping into. And I know it'll be a challenge, but I'm interested to see if we can keep this alive. I think I know where the three of you stand on it. So, but I also am glad that at this particular time, I'm not in your shoes.
So we need more people like yourself.
Yeah.
With that, I would make a motion to approve her application.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Kelly.
it.
Great job.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Job starts in 15 minutes.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. No problem.
Okay. Do you have a need for executive session?
Yes, sir. The board will meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660 sub 2D to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations.